Negroidic, the Black Frank Gelada, a gangster judge, therefore unprosecutable, the blackish, menial, negroidic in appearance and demeanor, felon, vicious, parroting puppet, ex-district attorney Nassau County, with no private law experience, detested by all factions, in spite of this solely because of his many-year secret gangsterization and crucifixion of me, this negroidic, low, mafionic, deadly Black Frank Gelada was then immediately and unprecedentedly and repeatedly, rapidly promoted in spite of tremendous opposition to the present position of second highest state judgeship solely through gangster computer god manipulation. As additional evidence, during the last week of my within-mentioned month-long, worse-than-a-farce Nazi court criminal trial in Nassau County Court, 1958, where dwarfed-it felon gangster parroting puppet rectum lapper sodomist Judge William Sullivan's ball of fat felon slut wife, she, as planned, sat in the front row, repeatedly stripping her overclothes and completely pulling up her dress and slip and pulling aside her old-fashioned pink bloomers in order to display her anus, her conch. She repeatedly gesticulated and whispered, "I'll give it to you to suck. Finish him." Her husband's dwarfed-it felon gangster parroting puppet rectum lapper sodomist Judge William Sullivan, flushed-faced in repeated open sodomistic displays, stuck out his tongue, wiggling it, chuckling to her. "You hangman rope gangster felon parroting puppet scum on top playboys can watch my Frankenstein eyesight television playback of this felonious lowly sodomistic display by the felon sodomist Judge William Sullivan and his lowly felon slut wife during my trial in Nassau County Court. After my worse-than-Nazi court criminal conviction, crucifixion, for years in poverty I suffered hopeless, jobless, character assassination, and isolation in this low, deadly nigger town. I was the repeat target victim of this gangster government's gangsterization and undetectable extermination attempts to shut me up forever with my secrets. Then, in December 14th to 17th, 1965, I attempted to escape this worst mongrel gangster communist country to return to the Slovenic Polish land of my forefathers. Instead, in a gangster-staged parroting puppet deadly conspiracy, I was flown from Kennedy, New York Airport at night to a small distance St. Lawrence River estuary, snowbound small airport under the guise that I was in Warsaw, Poland. Immediately, many, many things proved this to me, including the two big white asbestos shingled hangars with the large Brand F Airways signs on their sidewalls, in addition to the many blurted statements I solicited from the many CIA deadly gangsters, the assassins of me, the many, many parroting puppets all around me. I demanded an immediate flight back to Kennedy, New York Airport. Instead, I was held captive all night later in chains. I refused both all food and requests I go to sleep. Then CIA police gangsters pretending to be Polish police with no identification beat me bloodily. Later, while my return trip 707 Boeing jet airliner was being serviced for my return trip, I quickly walked into the airplane and saw a CIA gangster with a small electric hairdryer type blower pumping deadly poison nerve gas smoke into secret compartments under the ashtrays in the arms of the chairs, where later I was ordered to sit in the airplane full of CIA underlings, passengers, my assassins, who giggled as they watched me dragged in chains by the airplane by the gangster CIA police gangsters. These deadly gangster CIA passengers, they pressed the frontal panel of the ashtrays in the seat arms to release the deadly poison nerve gas smoke. Indubitably, all of the others deadly CIA underling gangsters aboard this staged return flight, they all had taken the top secret poison nerve gas antidote pill, immuning them from the deadly poison nerve gas smoke. Deadly poison nerve gas smoke was sprayed at me from cigars, cigarettes, and even from ballpoint pens, also from the wig of a woman sitting next to me. Even the Swiss cheese type ice cubes were evaporating into poison nerve gas smoke in all of the free drinks. I got up and went to the rear of the airplane by the rear exit door with a large push-up handle. My Frankenstein brain thoughts broadcasting radio disclosed my intentions. Immediately, the loudspeaker screamed that the flight was over and that our airplane was already preparing to land at Kennedy, New York Airport. You hangman rope sneak gangster playboy scum on top know these facts are true, not only from taking part in such undetectable exterminations, but also you chicanerous, demented, felon, parroting puppet gangsters can watch my Frankenstein eyesight television playback of all these horrible, terrifying, deadly events. When I returned home, Joseph I. Deck, my only brother and deadly felon, murderer, and assassin spy agent against me for this gangster government, he beat me repeatedly, cursing me that I was not exterminated by all of the poison nerve gas smoke, and that I did the impossible in that I kept awake for 3 days and refused all food in order to prevent my sneak extermination. In accordance with the completely gangster computer god concocted and manipulated statutory laws, one of your gangster court's requisite duties is to automatically rehear my said appeal case, because it has been brought to your attention, you hangman rope gangsters, that my entire life was destroyed by you co-conspirators.
It's yours? No,
Your mother said she found it in your closet. Who taught you how to do this stuff?
You, all right? I learned it by watching you.
It's yours?
No,
Your mother said she found it in your closet. Who taught you how to do this stuff?
You, all right? I learned it by watching you.
Good evening. If you guys have any 40s, I suggest you unscrew the cap. And this only counts if the 40 is in a brown paper sack. If the 40 is not, well, if it's old English, Mickey's, and what's the other one? Like Steel Reserve. That was the other one. Then it doesn't have to be in the brown paper bag. In that case, you want to show off that label. You want everyone to see that you got the good stuff. Unscrew that cap, nice and easy. Hold it out at arm's length. Oh, someone said Colt 45. Colt 45 as well. And just tilt it and pour some of that out for the homies that couldn't be here tonight because of the purge that continues. The purge that continues. And will most likely, you know, who knows where round and round the world she goes, where it'll stop, no one knows, but probably on this channel. So, like, I don't know. I don't want to tell you to hang on to your donations, but you might want to hang on to your donations. You know, until we see if this is it's probably not a good idea to throw your Monopoly money at me because it's probably just going to go into to the nothingness. So anyway, oh boy, you know, one of the things we got to talk about. So they're obviously, look, nothing got in their way, and the reason why nothing got in their way is Trump, like we've talked about, he's at that point now where it's no longer lame duck at this point. It's like, you know, it's like, what is it, 5 days? Or not 5 days. Let's see here. It's 8 days. He's not going to do anything in 8 days. Trump, meanwhile, is getting deplatformed from banks. Deutsche Bank. Deutsche Bank just deplatformed Trump. So Trump is getting deplatformed from banks, which is that's a difficult thing. If you're a billionaire business guy and you can't use Deutsche Bank and some of these other banks, I would imagine, I mean, not being a billionaire, I don't know, that makes life a little bit difficult for you, but I don't know. We'll see. Because a lot of times if you're a big client like that, right? Like you're a big time client, you get special deals that take years to negotiate and get all set up. And it almost makes me think, you know, like I'm starting to lean more towards just the guy that's in over his head. The guy that's in over his head. I don't want to call him incompetent, but that kind of, I think it might describe him accurately. I definitely want to say he's in over his head, though. And, you know, like, he trusted the wrong people because he didn't know what he was getting into. I really do think that out of all the things that Linwood said, most of which is all just garbage, but out of all the things he said, the one thing that sounded the most believable, especially because immediately after he said it, you could tell he regretted it, was that when Trump first decided to run for president, he chose to run for president to help his brand. Isn't that a little piece of irony? He thought it would be good for his brand. I'll just run for president. I'm probably not going to win. My brand will just super increase. Because that's what he's done his whole life, right? Like that cameo that we talked about in Home Alone 2. That wasn't just random. That was Trump. Trump has managed to insert himself into so many random things throughout the years. Like he has to actively try to do that. I mean, it helps that he has like, you know, $1 billion or whatever, but like he has to have agents getting these gigs for him. I remember when I was young, and yes, I did listen to the hip hop. I got a Method Man album. I think it was the first Method Man album, and Trump's on that. Like Trump's just like, he just shows up like on this track and tells Method Man to hurry up and finish his album or something like that. And it's like a voicemail. He's everywhere, though. I mean, I knew who Donald Trump was when I was a kid. I didn't know what he did really or why he was famous, but he was just everywhere. He was in commercials all the time. And it would seem that he thought, oh, this is the next step. Because he'd been talking about running for president for years. You know, like, by the way, not always as a Republican and certainly not as a conservative, right? And he'd been talking about running for president. He'd toyed with it a couple times. And I think it was just like another thing to check off your bucket list. When you're someone like Trump and you've got all these things at your fingertips, hey, fuck it, let's run for president. Why not? So Linwood basically said, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but he said that, yeah, Trump wanted to increase his brand. And then once he was on the campaign trail, he realized that, oh, people actually really want me for president. And so I guess let's actually try. Let's actually try to win. That's not the guy that's going to be prepared to take on the deep state. You know, that's not the guy. In fact, that is the guy who's going to lean heavily on the professionals, which is exactly what he did to make all of his choices for his cabinet picks and everything else. That's not the guy that you need. That's not the guy that understands even the deep state, let alone someone who's prepared to take it on. So he's getting deplatformed from banks now. He's getting deplatformed from everything. And this is the kind of thing that's going to continue. Right now, one of the things that a lot of people are flocking to, and it just it's inevitable that this will get deplatformed. See, one of the things I keep seeing from people obviously Gab's experiencing a influx of people going onto the platform. And so it's, it's a little bit, here, I'm going to release whatever lemons are in this chest thing. Might as well, right? What was I saying? Oh yeah, the people that are disappointed in Gab. Obviously, first of all, Gab isn't working very well because of all these, that's totally understandable. They weren't expecting that. They weren't. It's not like you can't blame them. They didn't know that Trump would get banned from Twitter. What was it? 700,000. I think 700,000 Q accounts got banned off Twitter. That's a lot. That's almost 1 million people. Now, probably a lot of those were bots and stuff like that. But a bunch of these people got kicked off of Twitter. And just the fact that Trump's going to be on Gab, I mean, it's not even going to just be Trump supporters, right? Trump is good for the media ratings. So all the media people have to go now and make Gab accounts and all this stuff. So they weren't prepared for that. It is working right now. I was able to send a Gab, are they called Gabs? I sent a Gab telling people that I was going to be streaming. But I don't know if that's if it's now fixed or if it's just because it's kind of late at night and not so many people are trying. But I heard a lot of people complain not only about that, but at the lack of an app. Now, that's never really super bothered me because I don't even use the Twitter app. I try to stay away from apps, in fact, as much as possible. But, that is going to be a barrier for some people. And the Gab interface, just in general, and again, I might just have to warm up to it because I haven't, I've had an account for 4 years. And I just rarely use it. When I use it, it's mostly I go on there and hey, I made a video, boom, send. And then I close the page and I don't open it up again until next time I do that, And there was a time that I tried to get into it, and it was actually working pretty okay. And then they changed the user interface, and I didn't like it, and I was like, oh, God. But we'll see. We'll see how it evolves and stuff like that. I have high hopes, honestly, believe it or not, if you want to wait, Bill, because I feel like it's in good hands. I feel like Torba knows what he's doing. But we'll see. We'll see. But the complaint about the user interface, about the slowness, what that's doing is it's sending people to Telegram, right? And another reason why people are flocking to Telegram that has really nothing to do with our situation is that apparently WhatsApp, which is owned by Facebook, because in the same way that Google has gone around, well, I guess they don't do it quite as much now because they've already done it, but there was YouTube, Google didn't make YouTube. Google made, in fact, Susan Wojcicki made Google, she was in charge of Google Video, which was like a fucking joke. And it was supposed to compete with YouTube, and they couldn't compete with YouTube, so they just bought YouTube because they had that kind of money. Just like they bought like a lot of these companies. They just gobbled up anything that looked like, because they don't innovate themselves. So when someone else makes something, they just have the money to go buy it up, right? And so the WhatsApp is owned by Facebook, and apparently their new terms of service, which Instagram also updated their terms of service too. Instagram's terms of service apparently, and I haven't read through it, I've just read other people's interpretation of it, and it doesn't sound too outside of the realm of possibility. So I might breeze through it myself just to make sure. But according to them, the new terms of service essentially says if you use our app, we can access your camera, we can access this. And not just like, obviously to take a picture, but like just for information gathering purposes. And apparently the new WhatsApp is doing something similar, the new TOS for that. And a lot of people are flocking to Telegram. So I think it's only a matter of time because Telegram, look, I don't even know if it has a web interface. In fact, I don't think it does. But the reason it's been able to escape this bullshit excuse that Apple and Google use to deplatform, the apps, is they say, oh, well, you have this social media platform and you're allowing hate speech, and so therefore we're going to terminate your app because you're not censoring hate speech from your platform. And that's how they get away with it with things like Gab and Parler and all that stuff, right? But with Telegram, Telegram's technically a messaging platform, right? It's not technically a social media platform. So now you're getting into the territory, and in fact, I don't think... I would imagine... Telegram obviously has some of this stuff on their servers, unless you can do encrypted chats where it doesn't leave any footprint on their servers. And it's end-to-end encryption. It's actually kind of cool, assuming it doesn't get hacked, or maybe it's already hacked, who knows. I've heard some people say that they think it is. I don't know. But they're able to avoid this deplatforming from Apple and Google because what they'd be asking then is for this company to start reading its users' messages, which would be akin to telling Verizon that, hey, you need to start reading the text messages of the people that use your phones, and and you can't sell your phones, and you can't have your cell phone towers in our city or whatever, however the jurisdiction would work out, unless you police hate speech in the text messages and deplatform, turn off the phone service of people that are texting naughty things. Well, I think Telegram's going to serve as that little that transition to exactly that. I think the transition it'll begin with apps similar, either Telegram specifically or apps like that, where they'll say, hey, look, you can't have your app in the Google App Store or Play Store or the Apple App Store unless you start getting rid of these evil hate speech people. And I don't know. I don't know if Telegram would be able to. I don't even, honestly, I was trying to think about this the other day. I was like, how do they make money in the first place? You know, I really don't know. I mean, I know how social media companies make money because they advertise and they take your data and sell it and all this other stuff. Telegram doesn't advertise. There's enough data moving between, you know, like when I upload a video that's, let's just say, 20 megabytes, which that's pretty small, right? But then it gets 20,000 views. That's times that by all the different other users simultaneously doing exactly that. That's a lot of fucking bandwidth. And someone's paying for that, and I don't know exactly how they're doing that. Now, I know they have some premium features, but I haven't run into any need for any of the premium features. I would think the vast majority of people using their service don't have any need for their premium features. So I honestly just don't know how they're making any money. And I would assume, however they're making their money, a lot of it depends on a large amount of users being able to use their app. Because, look, you can make an app, kind of like the BitChute app someone was talking about. I think it was called BitSlide or something like that, where you can go into developer mode and you can install it and it works, you know. Most people they're not going to be able to do that. Most people are just dumb. And that's the problem is with these platforms. Like the reason why I stay on YouTube, even though like I don't focus on YouTube at all, is you need to be able to reach the dumb people. Because most people are dumb. And so you need to be able to reach most people, the most people possible. Otherwise, you do create an echo chamber. And then it's just kind of useless. So I see that these big tech companies, because they've run into zero resistance whatsoever, and let's face it, you know, it's not like the Biden administration is going to be really sad if Apple and Google start going after Telegram and all these other services. And look, Facebook's going to want to be all about that because they're losing people. They're losing WhatsApp customers to Telegram. And I believe it's made by Russians. I don't know where it's run out of now, but I think it started in Russia. And so, look, you could even have a situation where you have the Biden administration saying stuff like, "Oh, that's Russians. That's the Russian. That's those pesky Russians again. We need to get rid of Telegram because it's not secure. We need to." You know, it's funny because we've all gone off of these platforms which has been proven still not safe in the case of DLive, right? You know, DLive is Chinese. Telegram is Russia or whatever. I don't know what country. Maybe they're in another country now. I think they are. I don't know what country they're in now. But it's the sad state of things is you can't get. Even BitChute is from the UK, which doesn't make sense to me actually. But I don't know enough about UK law. But I didn't understand. I don't understand how they can host because UK has hate speech laws, right? So I don't know how they can host these videos there. If I would assume that some of these videos have to break the law in the UK. So I don't know, but I don't know enough about, you know, their laws there to know how that's all working out. I know there are some people that are suspicious of BitChute. I'm not one of them. I really do think it's like a free speech guy and some other people that are trying to make it work. But then again, you never know. I mean, you never fucking know, right? But what I'm saying is, all of these companies, none of them are out of America, aside from Gab. And I don't even know, like, has Gab had to locate their servers outside of the U.S. at this point? I don't know. I don't know where their servers are. And so I could definitely see a Biden administration saying, you know what? You know, for security purposes, we can't have Americans using all these foreign... I mean, because what does China do, right? Well, that's what they want. They want us to be China. And so China does exactly that. You can't use Google in China. You have like, you know, Choogle, whatever they have. And you have everything censored. Everything runs through official channels and filters. And that's 100% what they want. Of course they want that. So I could definitely see them saying, like, look, you can't access You can't access Telegram anymore because it's outside the jurisdiction of America. So I'm pretty sure that's where we're headed in terms of this. And I'm also pretty sure if they're going to be deplatforming people like Donald Trump from banks, then, I mean, who else is safe? If Donald Trump is getting deplatformed from banks, that doesn't really, it's not like, it's not really a good sign. So aside from a lot of people getting banned from DLive today, so many, I don't even know all the names, but Owen Benjamin got kicked off. That doesn't make any sense. He had nothing to do with, I mean, I haven't been watching him, but like I would assume he hasn't been telling people, he wasn't telling people to go to the Capitol, right? Vincent James got booted. And again, same thing. Like, I mean, I think he was in Washington that day, but I don't think he was like, I don't think he went in, I don't think he went inside. And I don't think that he would have been the kind of like, again, I've been busy with my own stuff, so I haven't been watching a lot of other people's channels. So I don't know what he's been saying, but just knowing him, I don't feel like it was anything that was bannable. But apparently, right? Apparently. Oh, and then, yeah, someone just mentioned Raging Humanist. Yeah, I think I just got a message from him on Telegram telling me that he got banned. So, I mean, same story. Like, I've seen some of his streams. Like, again, I haven't been watching a lot of people's stuff lately, but I don't imagine that he's not the kind of person I would think that would be out, that would be saying anything crazy, anything that would be bannable. But there you go. But it gets a lot worse than that. So Parler, and I've been telling people, look, I got a bad feeling about Parlers from the very beginning because they sure wanted an awful lot of fucking information from you. In fact, I think that to get your little blue check mark or whatever, you had to literally upload a picture of your driver's license or something like that. I mean, that's insane. Like, I would never fucking do that, right? And, but people did that. A lot of people did that. And in addition to Parler getting deplatformed from their servers, like they're offline, you can't go to parler.com, you can't get their app is gone, they're just gone. But in addition to them just being gone, before they were gone, according to reports that seem somewhat credible, there was a lot of vulnerabilities. Remember I talked about how everything's hackable? Well, everything's super hackable if you use WordPress, and they fucking used WordPress, which is astonishing to me, but not really, because, But anyway, so these guys, they left, it was like Swiss cheese. The security was full of holes. And there was apparently people were able to gain administrative access, and not only just download people's posts, but also the posts they had deleted, the EXIF data of the photos they'd uploaded, which in some cases, depending on how you set up your hardware, will have GPS coordinates of like where you took that picture. If they wanted the little blue check mark, or I don't remember what, I mean, I didn't use Parler, so I don't know what they did, but a lot of these people uploaded their, pick photos of their driver's licenses. And so supposedly there is 7 terabytes. That's a lot of fucking, like, if you're just thinking about, like, just think of it this way. That's mostly just like photos and text. And so 7 terabytes, that's like a lot of data. That's a lot. I mean, even if that's just all video, that's kind of like that's a lot. That's countless hours of video. And let's hope that a big chunk of that 7 terabytes is video. But apparently they got that data, and they're compiling it somewhere on the dark web, And the eerie thing is, it's another check mark from that 4chan post that I talked about. That, like I said, last time I talked about it, I was like, look, I really feel weird about even bringing it up because it's a little QAnon-y in a way. It is just some anonymous guy. But on the bright side, he's not claiming to be like, oh, I'm secret, whatever. And I know because of... No, he's just like, he says, like, I'm just a regular guy. I'm putting two and two together. I'm not leaking anything. But this is probably what's going to happen. He posted this on October 17th. You can go on Telegram. And on Telegram, I've got a screenshot, but I also have a link to the archived original thread. And what he described, I'll just quickly summarize it. What he described, I'm assuming it's a he, was, and this was on October 17th, he said, look, on the night of the election, it'll look as though Trump has won. And then in the morning, they'll say Biden won. And it'll be like super demoralizing. And little by little, you'll start to learn about instances of fraud, right? And it'll slowly become obvious to the Trump people that there were some shenanigans. And they want it to be obvious because they want the people on the right to get all ginned up and crazy. And then he said, around the inauguration, there would start to be instances of white, quote unquote, white supremacist terror. And that these instances would not only be, they wouldn't just be the leftist media saying, oh my God, this is terrible, but you would also have conservatives saying the same thing, which we've already seen, right? And that they would use these instances to help with their argument that they need to have gun control and push that along. But the thing that the Parler, quote unquote, hack kind of fulfilled, that I thought this part was super LARPy. So I don't even think I've brought it up before because it just sounded like, yeah, I don't know about that. But in that same post, he said, one of the things they'll do is they'll say that there was a hack. They'll call it a hack. And by the way, look into the backgrounds of the people that created Parler. Look at the early life on the people who created Parler. That's all I'm saying. And after the quote-unquote hack, he said that there would be a website hack. And this website hack would give them a lot of data with identifiable markers in it. So they could actually identify the people who had posted this stuff. And using this data, they would make a searchable database, which is exactly what supposedly they're doing with the Parler data. But they would make a searchable database so that the average person could search up people that they know. And look what we've got already happening. We've got children turning in their parents, right? We've got Reddit threads where it's just literally children and teenagers turning in their parents and their Facebook friends or whatever because they see them in footage from the Capitol, right? Right? So that mindset is already 100% full swing. So they create this database that you could search for people that you know. And the Biden administration creates a red flag law, right? This is something they've been talking about for years. So the red flag law thing that's not like a new concept. That's something that Bill Barr was pushing for. Based Bill Barr that was going to, put the hammer down on the pedos until he resigned with nothing having happened, just like Jeff Sessions. Yeah, based Bill Barr was talking about red flag laws. So the red flag laws, once those are in effect, and you've got this database, oh my God, my friend Jimmy McAllister, he's in this database of extremists. Look at all this extreme content he was posting. Let's red flag him. And like I said, that part of it sounded kind of LARPy to me. I was like, I don't know if that's going to happen. Oh, it happened. It's kind of happening. So I don't know who this guy is. He was very perceptive or you know, I'd like to interview that guy. Because so far, the one thing that still remains that I hope he's wrong about, the only thing that hasn't come true in this post, and again, like I said, you can go to my Telegram and you can look at the post if you want to check it out. The only thing that hasn't come true out of everything in this post was that, you know, these sealed indictments that the Q people have always, they've been talking about this for, well, I mean, like for 4 years, right? There's this database. I forget what the database is called, but there is a database. This does exist. There is a database, and it apparently has like indictments, federal indictments, and you can go in there and look up the indictments, and because it's supposed to be public information, right? And they have, of course, if it's a sealed indictment, it goes in the database, but you can't look at it. So all you can really see is that it's a sealed indictment. Now, my understanding, and again, I could be wrong. I don't think so. Is that these entries that are sealed that you can't look at? It's not all indictments, right? It's not like every one of these things is like a person. They could have entries for like evidence and like things related to that sealed case, right? So just because, let's just say there's 100,000 of these entries, that doesn't mean like 100,000 people, okay? But there is like north of 100,000. Now, the reason why this is a little bit weird is when they first started noticing this increase in the quote-unquote sealed indictments. I think that's the wrong terminology for it, because like I said, they're not all indictments, but you know, these sealed entries. This was years ago. At first, like it was like 10,000, and then it was like 50,000, and now it's over 100,000. So it has been growing, and this has been fueling these Q people, right? These Q people are like, oh wow, they're gonna get everybody. They're gonna get all these CEOs and all these politicians. Like, oh, this is great. You know, they're just gonna round everybody up, which, you know, is kind of impossible. We'll talk about that in a second, but yeah, it's not impossible if, and again, I hope this is the one where it seems unlikely. It does. It seems unlikely. This is the part that seems extra LARPy, even more LARPy than they're gonna have this database of people thing. Even though that part came true, I'm hoping this part doesn't come true, and I'm kind of I don't know. I'm thinking it won't. But there is a chance if this guy's analysis is correct, and that's what I'm going to call it. I'm not going to call it a prediction or inside information. It's not. It's just, you know, this is what this random anonymous person that we don't know who it is came up with, was that these, and look, he's not the first person to say it. I've heard a lot of people say something similar. But these indictments aren't for the deep state. They're not for the deep state. They're for people that are against the deep state. People that they see that might get in the way of a smooth transition into the Great Reset. Now, if you want to ask yourself, here's why that's entirely possible, and why the Q stuff is totally impossible. And I said this thousands of times, but Trump never seemed to have any control over his agencies. And I think we discussed just now probably why. It was amateur hour. He didn't know what he was doing. He didn't know what he was getting into. He had no real intention. That wasn't his original intention, wasn't to go in there and do all this stuff. Everything that people said about him going in there, like I remember Drudge. Don't you guys remember that? If you were paying attention to the election, before Drudge turned on Trump, Drudge on the front page, like the day before the election, put up this video from that Steve Pachetnik or whatever, however you say his name, the guy who used to work for Nixon, who's got ties to Mossad and all that stuff, and I don't know if he still does, but he used to go on Infowars all the time. This guy was in a video that was embedded on Drudge. This is back when people still went to Drudge, and was saying like, yeah, you know, we recruited Trump for the military to come in there and you know, clean up the swamp and all this other stuff. And look, I'll tell you, I'd never seen anything like that in politics, and I was like, and I wasn't familiar with him. I looked him up and was like, oh, this guy is, you know, he really was a spy. He really did work for Nixon and other administrations. Drudge is putting him on there. Like, this is crazy. Maybe there's something to this. And I had a lot of friends that 100% all of a sudden were like, oh shit, we better go vote for Trump because this sounds legit. But I think we know, you know, look at what he was saying recently. Well, look at what he was saying back in November that, oh no, don't worry guys. You know, these mail-in ballots have some kind of like Bluetooth blockchain, you know, fingerprint on them, and so we're going to catch them. That was obviously bullshit. That was obviously bullshit. And he's been caught, you know, his whole job was bullshit. His whole job was running psyops on other countries. So he was just psyoping Americans, much in the same way that Q was. The lack of embarrassment from some of the people pushing Q is it's as infuriating as it is predictable. Had some more coffee there. So yeah, like I think we'll see what happens, but I feel like the next few days are going to be fairly uneventful. I think there's a good chance, in fact, especially with all this pressure being put on Trump, you know, with the banks deplatforming him and all, they're all just using the Capitol thing as an excuse. But it's working, right? Nothing's stopping them. You know, Trump had 4 years and didn't stop him, and so why would he stop him in the next few days? Are we talking about, you know, saving it all for the very end? Like, no. It's just... And to make matters even worse, I remember the Q people saying, like, oh, look, he got that new Homeland Security guy. Let me look it up. His name was, like, Chad Wolf, like, yeah, which is, like, kind of, I guess, a Chad name. Let's see here. Where is it? Chad Wolf. Chad Wolf. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, Homeland Security. He was the head of Homeland Security. Trump brought him in fairly recently, and all the Q people were like, oh, yeah, Chad Wolf's going to clean up house, and he's going to be part of the plan. He quit today. And a lot of people have quit the Trump administration. I mean, he's running a skeleton crew at this point, these last few days. You know, there's nothing that's going to come swooping in the end to save everything. There's literally no reason to even do that. And everyone telling you that that's what's going to happen is either retarded or lying to you. Or both. So the situation right now is that the censorship will increase. You'll probably have Trump in the next day or so hop on camera at some point and say, you know, he'll be Trump, right? He's never going to be like this contrite, you know, tail between his legs. He'll never be like that. But the Trump version of that is what you'll see. And he won't say exactly what they want, but he'll say it just enough. Like, he probably won't even say that he concedes. Because I think Trump, especially given his options now, has to keep it going, right? And so I think that he's going to continue with MAGA, you know, at least through 2024. And try to cash in on it as much as possible. So he's going to leave that door open, but he's going to try his best to walk it back a little bit. He's going to walk it back a little bit and call for unity. I mean, if you want to know why, Melania did exactly that today. So Melania's already done that. They also did some like half-assed like leak. It was some senator because apparently Trump wrote a letter to the Senate, and he said that he regrets it and blah blah blah, and so like it's secondhand and whatever, right? But they're easing you into it. They're easing you into it. I really do think because because Trump just seems to like I was said before, he's just in over his head. When he was ignoring like this Q stuff, when the media would ask him questions about Q in press conferences, and he would just kind of like he obviously knew what it was, right? I don't think he quite understood the fanaticism attached to it. He understood what it was. He understood that these people were like going to vote for him. He understood that it was a valuable tool in keeping people on the Trump train, right? Let them make up all these excuses for him as to why he's not doing what they want. Like, I mean, what could you ask for anything more? And look, he could even, I don't know, maybe he was tangentially even involved or directly involved with the PSYOP himself. I don't know. No one knows. But I do think that he brushed it aside because he was in over his head and didn't realize the level of fanaticism. They had to have known some of it though, because they did start banning the merchandise from his rallies. Like if you wore like a Q hat or like a Q shirt, they'd kick you out, right? And so they had to have known a little bit that it was bad. And all the people all the memes, the bison guy and the Ashli Babbitt, they were both Q followers. Ashli Babbitt's already being memory holed. Like I said, I don't say this with any joy at all, because I'd love for her to I'd love for her to have like a fucking monument right outside the Capitol someday. But I know it's not going to happen. I know in like a month, no one's going to remember the name. I mean, how many people remember the Vegas shooting, right? Most people, it's already gone. Like, it's the response you have when you hear the Vegas shooting is like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Stephen Paddock. Oh yeah. That's how it is. It's whatever. It's not a big deal. I'm like that too. It's not like I sit here and or Seth Rich. How many people think about Seth Rich on a day-to-day basis? Pretty much nobody. I mean, I went balls deep on that one, I tried everything I could to get the word out on that, and that was another black bill. Like, people think that this is just, like, I started out this way. It's been a long, cumulative effect, all right? Because I realized, look, there's only so many reasons why Trump wouldn't just tweet out the name. Yeah, just tweet out something like, hey, what's going on with this Seth Rich thing? Like, something. And it never happened. And that told me either he's so out of touch in terms of like what the hell's going on that he's in over his head, or he's part of the problem here. Same thing with the Awan brothers, right? At least with the Awan brothers, he like mentioned them, but again, like he looked in over his head. Like he was some interview, I want to say, with Greta Van Susteren. And see, a lot of you guys probably don't even know who the Awan brothers are anymore, or maybe you never did. But when the Awan brothers were being investigated, there was like one media outlet covering the situation. I was making videos about it. You can probably still find them on YouTube or something. He mentioned to Greta, he was just like, yeah, and then there's like these Pakistani brothers or something. Like, I don't know. I hope Jeff Sessions does something. That was it. And guess what? Jeff Sessions didn't do anything. So that just went away. That just went out the window. See, but again, these Q, and here's the funny thing. Every time that one of these things was going down, the Q crowd was convinced, like, oh, well, this is the one. This is where the truth comes out because we have all the evidence and, like, all Trump has to do. And then it wouldn't happen. And then, like, they would just go to the next thing. And go to the next thing. And they would forget that, like, well, wait, hold on. There's, like, 50 fucking things already that, like, this was going to be the one. And it just, nothing ever happened. And it's because people don't want to believe that we already lost our country, guys. You want proof? You want proof? Hey, I'm going to show you proof. I'm going to show you proof right now that we already lost. All right. So, after the Capitol thing, which in terms of property damage, and maybe even in fatalities, I don't know, didn't hold a candle to BLM's little excursion out to D.C. After what happened at the Capitol, let me bring this up. I got to resize it. I hate the way OBS deals with images. It's really not that cool. So you got this, right? You got this and stuff like this all over the place. All over the place. You want to know what you got from the FBI when BLM and Antifa were tearing down statues and burning down historic churches? You got this. You got that. That's what you got. That's what you got. We don't have any representation in any of these agencies. This isn't your country anymore. Like, it's not the way that you were brought up thinking that the way that it was, that's gone. You know, the communist takeover, or whatever you want to call it, that it already happened. It's done. It's complete. And I think it was complete like before Obama. But now it's like super complete, which is precisely why we sent Trump to go deal with the problem, and he failed spectacularly. He failed spectacularly. And like I said, anyone telling you anything different, they're just retarded, or they are delusional, or both. Or they're lying to you because they're grifting. Having a significant number of Trump's base believe that he's doing all these crazy things is damaging on so many different levels, it's almost hard to calculate. Because there's zero political pressure ever applied to Trump by these people, the most fanatical people in his base. Zero political pressure because, oh, don't worry, this is all part of, this is supposed to happen. No matter what happens, this is supposed to happen, no matter what it is. No matter how bad it looks, it's actually good. Therefore, we never have to say, hey, Trump, what about the Alwan brothers? What about Seth Rich? What about, lock her up? What about all this stuff that, we thought you were going to do? No, instead they were like, oh, he's doing it. He's doing it. It's cool. No matter what it looks like he's doing what we want him to do. Yeah, that's real useful, isn't it? That's really good, huh? That's a good thing. That's good for morale, right? That's really good. It's good to have, the people that are most willing to show up to rallies and apply political pressure and sometimes take it too far in D.C. or whatever, not far enough, depending how you look at it. it's good, don't you know, to have those people just completely disconnected from reality. It's fucking retarded. And look, I get it. It's embarrassing if you've been telling everyone how high your IQ is for like 4 years straight while telling them that this shit's true and it turns out to be a fucking fairy tale. I get it. I can see how that could be embarrassing. I can see how that might affect your comic book sales. That's all I'm saying. I could see that, you know. But so yeah, that's kind of the situation right now. I've gone to pretty much zero in terms of in terms of expecting anything spectacular. I was leaving like a little bit of wiggle room in there just because, like, look, I don't know everything. I've never met Trump, you know, like I've been to a Trump rally. I've seen him, but I didn't even get close enough to like to shake hands with him or something like that. Like he was, in fact, I was very far away because it was a big rally full of a lot of people who had a lot of high hopes. But Superman's not coming to save you guys. Superman's not coming to save you. And now it might be a little bit too late. Because instead of holding people's feet to the fire and applying political pressure for the last 4 years like you should have been doing, you were trusting some fucking fairy tale plan. But now it's too late. Because now he's gone. He is gone. He's gone. I'll bet my dick that he's gone. You're going to have Biden. You're going to have Biden and you're going to have Harris, most likely, not too soon after the 20th. Or not too long after the 20th, rather. So it's too late. It's too late to apply all that pressure. It's too, you know, who's gonna clean up the swamp now? You know, like, and Trump didn't even try. He didn't even try. And look, there's limits to what you can do, obviously. But he didn't even have his closest circle. They had no intention of doing it. They were the swamp. But you were too busy in this crazy fantasy world to do anything about it. In fact, you would lie. You would lie to yourself and everyone around you. You'd say, oh, keep your enemies close. Okay, but you're missing part of that saying. It's keep your friends close, actually, and keep your enemies closer, but who are his friends? You need to have the friends. If you're just having your enemies close, like that, what the hell is that? How's that going to help you? Disinfo is necessary. So yeah, that's the situation we're in right now. And my hope is, because look, a lot of these people that probably got banned off Twitter and other places and Parler, one of the positive things that Trump did was he did undermine trust in the media. And he did probably get a lot of people who wouldn't normally have been on Twitter or these, you know, wouldn't have been on any kind of interactive social media platform being politically active, even if it was, you know, politically active in some crazy fucking conspiracy way. At least, you know, they were probably more involved than they're used to ever being. And so my hope is that these people, instead of just giving up and saying, wow, I was totally lied to for 4 years, I feel like a fucking idiot, I guess voting doesn't matter, I'm just going to go and, you know, go punch my time card and just do the bare minimum just to not get fired until I die. I guess we lost. My hope is people don't do that. My hope is those people start to realize that the people that have been trying to tell them about reality this whole time weren't full of shit. And they can direct this energy, this fanaticism that they have, towards positive ends and not just spinning their wheels trusting some fucking stupid plan that doesn't exist. That is my hope. All right, I got to take a real quick break here because I've drank too much coffee. I'll be right back.
The Black Frank Gelada, a gangster judge, therefore unprosecutable. The blackish, menial, negroidic in appearance and demeanor, felon, vicious, parroting puppet, ex-district attorney Nassau County, with no private law experience, detested by all factions, in spite of this, solely because of his many-year secret gangsterization and crucifixion of me, this negroidic, low, mafionic, deadly Black Frank Gelada was then immediately and unprecedentedly and repeatedly, rapidly promoted in spite of tremendous opposition to the present position of second highest state judgeship solely through gangster computer god manipulation. As additional evidence, during the last week of my within-mentioned month-long, worse-than-a-farce Nazi court criminal trial in Nassau County Court, 1958, where dwarfed felon gangster parroting puppet rectum lapper sodomist Judge William Sullivan's ball of fat felon slut wife, she, as planned, sat in the front row.
It's yours?
No,
My mother said she found it in your closet. Who taught you how to do this stuff?
You, all right? I learned it by watching you.
And we're back. All right. I learned it from watching you. That's the funniest shit. The funniest shit is that all these people acting surprised. You know, the funny part of it is too, not only do you have people behaving like this when it's BLM and quite differently when it's people on the right. Part of it is, look, they're on BLM's side. I mean, look at that photo. What do you see? A bunch of white women, right? And soy boys. Those are the people that would be at the rally if they didn't have to work that day. Right? So that's part of it. They support BLM. They're clapping. They're clapping and cheering. It's like those the weekend warriors that you'd see, the soldiers that were twerking and making little TikToks with the BLM protesters. They're on their side. That's part of it. Now here's the other part of it. The other part of it is, look, let's just be pragmatic here. You really think Antifa, a bunch of overprivileged Jewish kids wearing pajamas, dressed up like ninjas, you know, with urine bombs and, like, you really think those guys have what it takes to actually cause a problem for the ruling class? No, of course not. In fact, I mean, fuck, right now, they're on Twitter right now. What are they doing? This is how schizophrenic they are. They're on Twitter right now, spreading all these images of that black cop that was in the Capitol that apparently, oh, he's a hero because he got them to follow him away from the House chamber. And I don't know how true. I mean, I saw the video when it was happening. And I don't know how true it is that he like saved the day, or if they just picked him as to be a hero. But these are people that were just like a few weeks ago, not even like a few months ago, a few weeks ago, were saying fuck the police, and now they're spreading memes about cops, and they're celebrating someone that that the secret police shot in the neck. So look, these people aren't exactly, they're not exactly a problem for the hierarchy. You know what I mean? Like, these people are not, and look, even if they were more principled or more consistent with their beliefs, and they wanted to go after, you know, if they wanted to take down the elites or whatever, I don't know, whatever they would want to do, I mean, come on. They're a bunch of, like, wimpy kids in skinny jeans with bear mace and like, airsoft helmets. Like, what are they going to do? Like, realistically, what are they going to do? And the ruling class knows that. The ruling class knows these guys don't pose any real threat. Not just because they're easily manipulated. And look, we've often talked about on the right how, on the right, you know, watch out about joining groups because there's probably like a federal agent and like the, you know, like if you join some militia or like whatever, right? There's going to be, you don't think they're doing that to the left too? I mean, obviously they're going to have people embedded with Antifa and stuff like that, right? So you got that. I mean, they've just got that situation taken care of, is what I'm getting at. They don't have the situation brewing on the right taken care of. And as much as the people, like the people that went into the Capitol, it absolutely was not, in my opinion. Look, they didn't know what they were doing, really. It's like they didn't have like a goal, which is part of why it was kind of just, ended up being such it backfired, right? They had no like objective. It was just like, yeah, we're in here now. Let's sit at Nancy Pelosi's desk, or, you know what I mean? Like, it was like, what are you going to do? There was no like list of demands. There was, you know, like, it was just like, yay, we're in here now, and let's fight some of the cops or something. Like, there was no plan. Speaking of, the funny thing, these are the plan trusters, and they had absolutely no plan. They just like went in there. But that said, look, I mean, that scared them. And no, I'm not gonna, look. There's all these people saying like, oh no, they let him in. They purposely did. No, they didn't. You're overestimating the Capitol Police if you think that that's what happened. And look, just all the fallout from that, just that's not what happened. All right, there was that representative. I want to say he wasn't from Georgia. Maybe he was from Washington State, which would be weird. But like, I think he was a GOP guy from Washington State who did let him in. It's on video, and he's being I don't know if he's going to have to resign, but he's being investigated now. Excuse me. And then the top cop for the Capitol Police resigned, and he said in his statement one of the reasons why he resigned was that the security detail for the members were getting in the way of him contacting the National Guard, or, you know, basically calling for reinforcements. And I don't think that's like some big conspiracy either. I think they just wanted to get some, which they did, right? Ashli Babbitt, she didn't die of diabetes. You got these people; their lives are relatively boring. They're basically just rent-a-cops with more gear. This is the shit they live for. So that's the other reason why all these stupid conspiracy theories are bad. Because it undercuts you at every step. Every step. And it maintains this view of the ruling class as this omnipotent force. That everything's planned. Everything they do is planned. There's no such thing as coincidences. Everything has a plan, and they're always like, you know, why do you think that that's a bad mindset for people to have? because you've already lost at that point, right? Like if they've got every angle, they've everything's planned, everything happened. Like you didn't do any of that. Everything that happened that's just what they wanted. Then why even bother trying? Like if that's what it is, if they're like this omnipotent, impossible to stop, tyrannical group of baby eating, Satanists or whatever, why are you even trying? Some leftist, actually, no, fuck it. It wasn't even, it was OJ fucking Simpson. OJ fucking Simpson of all people. Made a good point. Who would have thought? OJ Simpson on Twitter made the point that, the big difference that I saw between the protesters on the Capitol and the protesters in the civil rights movement, because, of course, he's going for the black points, right? But he had a point, was that the protesters of the Capitol had no leaders at the front line with them. Trump wasn't standing there up there with them. Not even someone like Michael Flynn or, some of these other guys. It didn't have to be Trump, but somebody. But if you look at the civil rights movement, sure enough, at least during these photo ops, who knows how real the history really is, but yeah, you had Martin Luther King right up in the front line with all of his followers getting beat up by the cops and hosed down and all that stuff, so he could have all those great photo ops that we don't have now. That would have been so much better. Instead of just, all right, guys, everyone just go to the Capitol. I'm gonna go to my bunker. I'm gonna go hang out and finish the puzzle I started putting together during the BLM riots when I was hiding from that. Don't worry, if shit gets too crazy, I'll tweet out Law and Order or something like that. There was literally no leader. Someone in chat said Baked Alaska was the leader. Okay, well, there's your problem. Like, they needed to have, like, a leader. And there was no leader. Trump's a terrible leader. Trump is, honestly, it's just, he was the right guy at the right time. And he failed to live up to the hype. Unless something so amazing that I might actually drop dead of a heart attack, unless something so amazing that I can't fathom what it would be happens, and somehow he pulls, like right now we're like an airplane headed nosediving, headed right for the ground, and we're only like 20 feet away, and so it's almost physically impossible to pull the plane up, right? But if somehow Trump reveals that he has X-Men powers, or turns into Mighty Mouse or something, and stops the plane from crashing, unless something like that happens, one of the worst presidents ever. One of the worst presidents ever. And I'm not saying that like, I'm black-pilled. I told you. No, prove me wrong. He's one of the worst presidents ever. He squandered an opportunity that no other president ever again is ever going to have. Ever. It's done. That was the window. And everyone knew it. That's why the desperation. That's why the people are clinging to this plan still. Smart people. Believe it or not, there's smart people that are still like, no, there's still a chance. It's like, no, there's not. But I understand why because if there's not, you got to be where I'm at, and it's not happy all the time being where I'm at. I get it. You don't want to visit this part of your brain. It can be a scary place. I get it. People know this was the last chance. So it's not even just like the Q people that like they've been believing crazy town shit for 4 years straight, and they've got an addiction to it at this point. Obviously they're not going to be easy to unbrainwash. I don't even know how. I'm sure there's like a term. It's basically a cult. You basically have to treat them the same way you would a cult member that's their cult. Half the cult commits suicide or it collapses or whatever. And now you got to like reacclimate them to reality. In fact, honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, that's actually something I probably ought to study. I mean that. I'm not being funny. Like I should probably study psychologically, like how you unretard someone after they get out of a cult. Because we're gonna have to do that. And I don't think he's going away. I don't think Trump's going away. The options in terms. Here's the weird thing. It's actually kind of better for us if he gets impeached. I know that might sound weird, but it's actually. Let me explain why. If he gets impeached, in addition to, he gets removed from office, and that obviously will, I think, wake up a lot of these Q-tards that think that there's a plan. I mean, that's kind of going to be like, if they manage to impeach him, I don't know how they would even do that in the little time they've got left, but if they manage to do that. But he also legally can't run for president in 2024. If that happens. And that's good. Because the last thing you want is 4 more fucking years of Q-tards thinking like, well, this has to happen because we're going to get him back. Because they'll do that. They'll do that. You know they'll do that. You know they'll do that. You know that it'll be, I mean, look, it won't be all of them, but there's going to be a big chunk of them. And it's like a virus. That shit spreads. And so even the people that aren't like following Q or whatever, look at that shit rubs off. It's contagious. I've seen it happen. I've seen people who they don't follow Q. They probably don't even know what Q is, but they start believing some of these weird little stupid theories. And then they stop paying attention to like what's really happening, and they stop being effective because they're operating under. I mean, it's like giving like it's like if you have a political movement, and then you dose like half of them with fucking LSD. It's like, okay, well, can we really count on those guys now? Like they're still on our side, I guess, but that guy over there's licking a couch. And that guy over there is crying. And like that woman she's climbing a tree and barking like a sea lion. Like what? You can't have your people living in a delusion. So you're going to have a lot of these people that do that. If Trump says he's going to run in 2024, look, by and large, there's a lot of people that are going to just be like, no thanks. You threw us under the bus. You didn't do any of the things that you said you were going to do. Plus, it's going to be really bad under Biden/Harris, right? So like all those, every time one of those things gets run through the House and the Senate and signed, it's going to be like another fucking jab, like, why didn't Trump and the Republicans behave like this? So I almost feel like it's probably better if he gets impeached, because that way you don't have him out there, dangling the fucking carrot. You got Junior writing fucking books about triggering the libs or whatever. And well, in fact, that's what you'll have, but at least it won't be Trump, or it won't be Donald Trump. But that's probably what they'll do if he gets impeached, or honestly, even if he doesn't get impeached, 4 more years. He's already pretty old. He'll be Biden's age in 4 more years. Maybe he'll still run. But if for whatever reason he can't, you know there's going to be a Trump in that primary. Now, it could be Ivanka Trump. Wouldn't that be a nightmare? Okay, let me take a look at a chat here. Well, let me open up the chest, I guess. Let's do that stuff, huh? Jeb. Well, we might have, honestly, it almost would have been, think about this, how fucked up this is. It almost would have been better if we had Jeb. Right? Because Jeb would have picked basically the same justices on the Supreme Court. Right? I mean, none of those guys, Trump didn't go outside of the norm for that process. He picked exactly, like I said, he didn't know, he was in over his head. He didn't have a plan. And so he just followed the advice of all the people that would have been working for Jeb. And so they would have been the same people. The same people that were telling Trump who to install, were the same people that would have been telling that to Jeb. So that wouldn't have changed. I don't even know that, it might have been better because, maybe Israel wouldn't get quite as many goodies. Obviously Jeb's a Zionist. We all know about his brother and the role that he has played with all that. So he's not just a little Zionist, he's pretty Zionist, right? So, maybe he wouldn't have done better. It would have been the same. So all this stuff that Trump has done for Israel probably would have been done. Instead of having Trump heights, you'd have Jeb heights. But it'd probably be the same, functionally the same. And what would be better, perhaps, is you wouldn't have a situation where there's a very real possibility. Well, first of all, we probably wouldn't get deplatformed, right? We wouldn't. That's going to happen eventually because that's just what happens. It's when the left gains control, and the left has been slowly gaining control for decades. This isn't like a new phenomenon. This isn't like they just came out of nowhere and started taking control. They've been doing this slowly and steadily for a long time. It didn't. That FBI wasn't just staffed full of SJW women overnight. That was a long process. If you look at the college graduates that are coming out, this has been a long process to change our society like that. Okay, it's already, you can't unfuck it, right, at this point. Trump was the last chance to do anything meaningful and to avoid some other kinds of eventualities. And Jeb might have just delayed it a little bit longer is all. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't have a crystal ball. It's impossible to know. Trump did, like I said, destroy faith in media, and that was extremely helpful. So Jeb wouldn't have done that, I guess you could say. Yo, Devon, did Trump slow the inevitable, or was he an accelerant for the system? I don't know. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's real tough to call, but I would say, look, he might have speeded it up, which is, I guess maybe I'm reacting a little bit emotionally because I don't like as much as yeah, it needs to speed up because I don't want to be 85 when things get real. I also don't want, no one wants to see that. Well, a lot of people don't want to see what that's going to look like. But maybe, like I said, maybe it's better this way. And so, I'm not going to be 85 when it happens. At least Trump stood for all the good things. He didn't, though. He stood for more aid to Israel. He stood for lying about the JFK assassination, lying about the wall all the time, making people think that there was a wall. He stood for black unemployment. He stood for the Platinum Plan. He stood for finding some way of legalizing the DACA people. He stood for H-1B1 visas. He stood for none of the things that you think he stood for. He didn't. He stood for butt sex in Botswana. What did he stand for? Devon, your thoughts? Kabal, J Elite, 1% Deep State. Whoops, I hit the wrong button. Are they all the same? No, I think it's just there's probably some consensus, right? But I think there's competing. Think of it as like a job, right? If you worked in a corporate environment, the higher up that you get in a corporate environment, the more ruthless the people are. Like they're kind of snakes, right? Because they're all they want the corner office, right? And but there's the CEO, and there's there's like the very upper, like the actual, and the shareholders and all that stuff, right? So there's those people, and then you have like the middle management people. And I think that I don't know who's well, I mean, like the shareholder concept, there's probably different shareholders, right? Just like with the Federal Reserve banks, we don't know because they're not transparent. There's no way to actually know. But there are shareholders, presumably more than one. I would think it'd be even worse than it is now if there's only one. Maybe there is, though. Who knows? We don't know. There's no way to know. But presumably there's different shareholders, and I don't think they'd all be of the same tribe, if you will. But there's certainly probably a lot more of them in a certain tribe. I bet statistically it doesn't. It's a little uneven. Let's see here. Let's see here. Trump is a proxy. His new book will be titled "The Art of the Butt Banditry." People saying that the Mercers gave Nick money. I don't know. Like I said, someone did. But who knows? Who knows what it was? I'll tell you one thing that might be a positive out of that is he did create a website that's capable of streaming. I think he test drove it tonight. I didn't obviously watch it, but I went to the site to see if it was streaming, and it was up. I don't know if I don't know what his traffic was like, or if it remained up, or if it ended up being like Gab, so it just crashed. But I do think that's where Red Elephants is going to end up, and so at least there's another platform that's going to come out of that, that's going to fund that. Someone's saying it didn't work. Okay, I guess it didn't work. It failed. It got overwhelmed. Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's a lot of bandwidth. That's what I was saying earlier. It's a lot of fucking money. It's a lot of bandwidth to do that. And I don't know. You would think that he'd probably have like way more than the normal amount too on your opening night. You're probably gonna have like a lot of people. So let's see if he's able to scale up and handle it. Overwhelmed. New book, The Art of the Con. Well, I don't even think he wrote Art of the Deal. Is it weird how quick that was up and ready to go? No, I don't think it's that weird, because I think that he was. I mean, look, we all knew that eventually. I mean, I told you guys even like last month, like, look, don't act like this is forever. We don't know. And sure enough, it wasn't forever for a lot of people. So if I was Nick and making the kind of money that he does, and that's going to be his career path, right? I'd be making plans for backup plans. And if you have that kind of money to dump into it, you can make it happen. I mean, look, it failed tonight, but it was at least operable, right? It was overwhelmed, but it was operable. Like, it worked. And so if he has the money to just scale up, because my guess is it's just like a bandwidth issue, so you just need to pay for a fatter pipe. And so he pays for a fatter pipe, and then it works. Now, I don't know what the overhead's going to be like, because it's a lot of money. It can be a lot of money. Video's not small. And to serve up live video like that in mass quantities, that's not... There's a reason why there's not just streaming at BitChute already. I think that they should prioritize that, but it isn't super easy. It's easy enough. It's easy enough to get it working. It's just the problem is the scale. It's trying to get that many people. Well, I mean, like in Owen's thing, right? I don't know. I don't have unauthorized, but I don't think. I mean, he was still on DLive for a reason. They didn't have streaming, right? And that's because it would have cost a lot of money. And maybe that now they'll deploy something. So there will be solutions, even for me. Like if I get kicked off everything, I'll find a way. Or at the very least, worst case scenario, I can do videos and just upload them to BitChute until we find something that pops up. Why didn't he just stream on Entropy? I don't know. You're talking to someone else. You don't stream on Entropy, though. Entropy is just it's just like a super chat thing, right? So if you get demonetized on YouTube, you stream on YouTube, and then you're just monetized through Entropy, but you're still having to stream through YouTube. BitChute is awful. Well, look, they've managed to at least keep to scale. I mean, yeah, there's problems, but you have to remember every one of these companies, like Facebook, like MySpace, even like Google, every Twitter, every one of these products, they had angel investors. See, this is why you can't just go build your own, because what they did is they had angel investors, or they had VC, venture capitalists, would come in, and they're kingmakers. It's like Twitter itself, in terms of like the code behind Twitter, like anyone that's like even like a basically competent coder could make that in like a day. Oh, I mean, it's a little more complicated, I guess, now than it was when it first started out. But it's not you can get open source versions of Twitter basically for free, and then just kind of customize it and whatever. But so that's not the problem. The problem is, like with Nick's streaming and with Gab, is the servers. And like Parler learned, if you rent server space, because that's what usually people do, is Amazon provides I don't know if it's the majority, but it's like a big chunk of the internet is hosted at Amazon. And so you rent a server at Amazon, and their servers can handle the traffic, and they can handle everything. And to scale up is really easy because you just pay for more. But if you're running your own, if you're hosting your own servers, like in the case of Gab, I mean, you have to physically build and install and configure real servers, and that takes some time. That's like not super easy, and it takes a lot of expertise, and it takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of hardware. Plus, this hardware doesn't last forever, and it has problems, and so like you're having to replace hardware, you're having to maintain the hardware, all this stuff that would normally just be taken care of by, some guy at Amazon. Now it's a little bit better because virtualization, all this stuff has gotten way better these days. But it's also like I'm out of touch with it. I haven't done anything like networky in a long time. I know just enough to like get understand it, but I'm not like a network administrator and like that. But this stuff is that's what's expensive. Distributing networking, blockchain, torrent streaming website. Well, okay, so BitChute, that's how they first kind of advertised the way that it worked, was it was a blockchain streaming service. I don't know how much of that's actually true. I don't think it's because they don't even talk about it anymore, the blockchain stuff. Now, Library does that, but I understand blockchain technology, but I don't understand how it serves up video. I don't get that part of it. Because it just seems like, I don't know. I don't understand the technical aspect of that. But even if you do that, right? Like, let's say you do something like Library or whatever now it's called, Odyssey. I think in order to keep all the nodes going or whatever, that you have to create your own cryptocurrency. It's complicated, and you have to get people using it. You have to have people running nodes, or because if no one's running nodes, you're gonna have to run nodes, and so you have to either make your cryptocurrency profitable enough to where people want to run nodes voluntarily, and so it's a complicated thing. It's not as simple as just, and some of that might be open source, but some of it might not, because blockchain technology is bleeding edge, if you will. So then you're going to have to be way more technically advanced. You're going to have to pay for some people that really know what they're doing to get something like that done. You're not going to be able to just get some like, out of the can web streaming WordPress site or whatever. You're going to have to actually write some original code. Trump has an account waiting for him at Gab, but he's not there yet. Trump hasn't said anything yet, which is a little weird. And it's just fueling those conspiracy theories. Because the longer he's silent, the more that everyone's just going to say, like, oh yeah, see, he's underneath that mountain at the control center getting ready, or he's at the Alamo or whatever. Now, this is a little out there, but I wouldn't be. I would be very surprised, but I wouldn't be like, I wouldn't be struck down dead if this happened. Look, Texas is the state that brought the lawsuit, and Texas is also the only state in the union that has the legal ability to secede cleanly from the United States, and Texas said precisely that in their response to the Supreme Court punting the case. And Trump is in Texas. So I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility that maybe a Texas secession movement is maybe started by a Trump or something like that. I don't know. We'll see in the next. Look, we'll see. For a few more days, he has access to things that he won't have in a few more days. And so if he's going to do something, the clock's ticking. That's why I don't think anything's going to happen, because it's like, why would you wait to this last moment? As we've seen, none of your other things have worked out, right? And don't tell me it was your plan for like nothing to work out until like the very last second, because that's a shitty fucking plan. That's silly though. Texas claims about secession don't mean anything. Why? How do you know? Like the thing Texas has going against it is it's not quite the red state that it once was, right? In fact, it's got the same problem that America does. The demographic shift has been something that's not just a national problem, it's a state-by-state problem as well. Especially with Austin, right? Austin is turning into like little San Francisco. It's always been a little bit like that, but now it's getting bigger and worse. And so you would run into some issues with that, obviously. But maybe they, look, Republicans have at least controlled the governorship in Texas, I think, going back till forever, and so because of that, you've had a lot of one party rule. It's kind of like California, right? Like the Democrats have been in charge for so long that the right. There's a lot of conservatives that live in California. There's a lot of conservatives. My parents were conservatives, and they lived in California. And, I still have relatives that live out there, and they're conservative. But they're completely powerless. Completely powerless. They might as well not vote. In fact, probably a lot of them don't. And so you might have a mirror image of that happening in Texas, although, like I said, demographically it's been shifting so much, and because Democrats are just better at this, don't think that they're not out there doing the Stacey Abrams maneuver in Texas for like the last fucking 50 years, trying to turn it blue. But it's not silly. It's not likely, but it's not silly. It's probably not going to happen. But it's possible. The Texas secession thing has been a Q-type movement since we were kids. Yeah, but like there's a reason for that. It's like I said, they're legally. Not every state can do that. If you're gonna do it, that's where you have to do it. It's Texas. Well, it's not where you have to do it, but like if you want to do it without there being severe consequences, that's where you got to do it. So. If you're saying that it's all a fantasy, then none of these other states have any fucking hope either. Anything can happen. I mean, people think that America has been in its current form for like a long time. No, like when in 1776 we had 13 colonies. We had 13 states. And in fact, some states like Hawaii weren't even states until like the 50s. So this is the shape and the structure of the United States. Well, it has changed drastically during its lifetime, several times. You had the Spanish-American War. You've got the during the Civil War. You had that. You had a secession movement. Now, long term, it failed, but it happened. And yeah, times have changed, and all the lots of things have changed in a significant way that has made something similar very difficult. And obviously that's on purpose. They've been forcing diversity in as many areas as they possibly can for that very reason. It's easier to control a city that doesn't have a strong identity. Doesn't have any kind of sense of community. It's just a storage facility for slaves, right? So that's and they've been systematically going state by state, like these caravans, right? When they come across the border, or just really illegal immigrants when they get rounded up by ICE. ICE is fucking flying them to places like Maine. There's people that are getting rounded up in El Paso, Texas. And then with your tax dollars, they're getting flown to Maine. They're getting flown to Idaho. They're getting flown all around the interior. And that's not some accident. That's not just like it's not just like, let's just spread them around, so that we have people to work at Taco Bell's and all the different. No, they want to bust up the demographics of every area. That's clearly intentional. They are already some Q-tards trying to push the idea that Mike Pence with Trump as VP run. And weren't they telling you like just the other day that they hated Pence? And now they're what the fuck? These people are crazy. But like I said, I don't even think like if Trump got removed he can't even run as vice president. If they impeach Trump and they remove him from office, I don't think that he can even run for vice president, so it wouldn't really matter. Devon, shout out to my friend DD, fully supports you. He drives freight all night. Can't listen live. All right, DD. Double D. Why didn't you become a regular on Infowars? Well, I don't know them. You know what I mean? Like they messaged me once, or I was on there twice, I think. Yeah. Maybe 3 times. No, I think it was only twice. And I think I got a little too racial for him because one of my videos got banned. This was back when getting video banned was like a big deal, and now it's not a big deal at all. But I did a video about the Bird Box. They actually, weirdly enough, they reinstated it, and so they banned it. I went on Infowars and talked about it, but then I started talking about how like the review itself was basically talking about how all the bad guys are white and all the good guys are black, which is true. And there's, a lot of, it's pretty heavy-handed. It's not like, it doesn't take a genius to see it. I mean, you guys know, everything new is woke garbage now, right? And when I would start to talk, and look, it's Alex's show, so I tried to frame it in a way that wasn't, wouldn't be something that he could, because his show goes out like on the air, and like I followed the, I toned it down, right? And it still, he was making him squirm, and I thought I would never get invited again. And then I got invited back, and I forget what the second one was about, but it was the same thing. I kind of got the sense that there was like that they realized that, oh, he's further to the right than we're comfortable being, So they have not been invited back since. I don't remember like I said, I don't remember what the last one was even about. But yeah, Alex did say like, "Oh, I'm gonna get you here hosting the show or something like that." And I didn't want to do that because he doesn't pay those people most of the time when they do that. It's just like to get your name out, so people do it because but it's good for him because it gives him like some time off, and it's good for you. It gets your name out because he has a huge audience. But yeah, it's yeah. I mean, look, people keep saying people say he's a shill and all this other stuff, and I get what you're saying, but the thing is, and I know there are people that take him seriously as like a newsman. I don't think that's quite the case these days anymore. I think a lot more people are looking at him more as an entertainer. So it doesn't bother me as much as it bothers some people. Because who's taking him seriously, right? And I know there people are. I know there are people that do. And maybe that number is just higher than I think it is. He doesn't pay them? No. Well, I mean, like, I know people that have done that he didn't pay. And I don't think that he would have paid me if I'd done that. Like, I think Owen Benjamin even said when he was doing it very briefly, because he got a little too real, but he wasn't getting paid. I don't think Jay Dyer gets paid when he's done it. Yeah, I think that when you've seen, like, even back when it was like Cernovich and Posobiec would pop on and do it, I don't think they got paid. It was just more it was more for exposure. Millie Weaver is Jewish. I don't know. Possibly. Infowars 50% off. Alpha Male. Goat Horn. What about the ramen noodle hair girl from Liberty Hangout? I don't know what Liberty Hangout is. Tim Pool was made way too much money off of Alex Jones. Or has made, I'm guessing you meant. Yeah, fuck Tim Pool. Tim Pool is 100% just there for the money. His calculus is he has no principles of his own. He rides the fence so that he appeals to as many people as humanly possible and doesn't break any rules. And that's his principles. His principles are appeal to as many people as possible and don't break any rules that will affect your funding. And that's his ethics. His ethics are to be making money off of as many people as he can. And to stay promoted by the algorithm. and to keep getting invited onto like Joe Rogan and stuff like that. That's his ethics. He doesn't have any convictions. But he's not American either, so, you know, why would he? Let's take a look here. If I take the hat off, will he die? Well, people have taken his hat off, and then they almost die laughing. You should interview Jared Taylor. Yeah, I don't know, maybe. Were you always based? Not as based as I am now. I was always on the right, and I've just been like listing more and more to the right as the years go by. But I was more libertarian not that long ago. I'd say like 5 years ago, I was more libertarian. And but I always knew there was I was always anti-immigration, because I've lived in areas that were affected by immigration more so than like most people. And I've had to deal with it, and I've known it's a problem because like it affected me every day. And I mean, I got into a lot of random fights with Mexicans that were totally pointless. You know, like actual, like, you know, like Mexican gangsters, like actual fights. Because I just went to schools where like that was part of the diversity of the experience, right? And look, I'm good at pattern recognition. But at the same time, I kept most of it to myself because I was like, well, maybe maybe we just have to give him a chance. Maybe after like a couple generations or whatever, like doing the white guy thing, the nice white guy thing. And then it wasn't until I saw the IQ, really it was the IQ data that Stefan Molyneux provided, that I was like, oh god, and that in the crime statistics, where you realize, oh, so my evidence isn't anecdotal. My evidence is very typical. Like the patterns I'm recognizing, the experiences I'm having, are very typical of a much larger problem. Oh, and that's when I was like, oh shit, we fucked up. Well, and by we I mean the boomers. Devon, opinion on hapas. There's nothing wrong with hapas. I know I talk shit about Tim not being American, and that's true. I think they have identity crises a little bit, right? Like, because it's like a split. Like, you know, look, there's entire subreddits about the mental disorders of being a hapa, and I know that's not every hapa, right? But that's it. Look, you know, it is what it is. I don't have any strong feelings about hapas. Like, just because I'm aware of the race problems, and this is the thing that people get wrapped up because of the programming that's been put in your head to equate, oh, if you notice the differences between races, you must hate the other races. And it's like, no, I don't, by and large. And, you know, I'm even willing to look at solutions where we compromise a little bit on this just because of the mess we're in. At least in the short term, right? But yeah, there's differences. They are real. And lying about those differences is killing us. Literally killing us. I liked your millennial interview by oh, you're talking to someone else. I'm fine with admitting I have preferences. Yeah, I have preferences. I would rather live among whites. And look, because I've lived in diversity my entire life. When I lived in California when I was a little kid. And when I was like I'm going to have to think about this. It might have been second grade. I got jumped by a gang of Vietnamese kids, of all people. It was super diverse. But we had a lot of jungle Asians and just random people, right? Because a lot of Asians are just in California, and we had Asian crime fucking problems in the city that I lived in. Like literally, like I don't know what the names of the gangs are, but like Asian mafia type shit where they would come in with an Uzi and gun down half the people in a bar and stuff like that. And that happened when I still remember because they played like the security camera footage, just thinking like, good Lord. And I went to a school where it was probably half white. And, all my friends mostly would end up being white because we would just have more in common. And usually when you had problems with other kids, it was like a non-white kid. And you're kids, right? It's not because you like, oh, I hate Mexicans, but just like you're raised totally different. You have totally different values. You have totally different expectations in terms of what is normal in a social interchange. And it leads to fights at a very early age. Like, it was rough. I got in so many fights. And look, I'm a lover, not a fighter, but I still got in a lot of fights. Like, a lot of fights. For, being an elementary school kid. And I would rather my kids not be in an environment like that. I once moved from a very diverse area to a very white area. And it affects so much. It's almost like, I don't know if you guys saw when Molyneux went to Poland. And he was surrounded by like all these like white people. And he was talking about how great it was. And he was almost sobbing. In fact, I think he started crying a couple times. Because it really is, it is weird how, like, you don't realize how much you're kind of like in defense mode. How much you're always watching your six, how much you're always like on edge a little bit all the time. You don't realize that until you're somewhere where you can relax. I went to the Ukraine for a while, and I was in Kiev and Lviv. Same thing. I saw one black person the entire time I was there. Everyone else was European. There were some Polish people, some, they weren't all Ukrainian, but they were all European. And even though I speak very little Russian and pretty much no Ukrainian, and they don't speak, like, I expected them, because I'm an American and that's what Americans do, I expected that more of them to understand English than they did. But even though there was that communication barrier, and I would get lost a lot. And there was shady stuff. Like, look, it's Ukraine. It's not the richest country in the world. There was a guy who got like his bag stolen waiting for the train. It was another American just happened to be there, and he didn't watch his luggage, and someone, snuck away. And that's kind of shitty. But like, by and large, like, I felt like just at ease. I felt relaxed. And Slavs aren't even really white. I was kidding. No, but you know what I mean? Like, look, people self-segregate all the time. It's not just white people that do this. Everyone does this. Like, look, there's black churches for a reason. Or look at prisons. If you go to prison, it's racially segregated. Any place where, like, that's allowed to happen, it happens. The only places it doesn't happen is where it's forced onto the people. Think about it. That's true. That is true. Anytime, whether it's on the internet or it's in real life, anytime that there is the ability to segregate by choice, there's always a separation of races every single time. I mean, for fuck's sake, there's Black Twitter. Like this, people every time given the choice, they would rather be around their own people. And there's nothing wrong with that. If Slavs are not white, please tell us who it is. I'm just giving you guys shit. I like to make fun of Slavs because I don't know. They're easy to make fun of. I got friends that are Slavs. I like to make fun of Slavs. It's they're usually not too sensitive. They have a pretty good. Romanians are hilarious in my experience. A lot of good sense of humors in Eastern Europe. Let's see here. I was just going to say that I actually grew up a lily white town and loved it. A few Hispanics and some Asians, both which are basically Americans. Well, they're not Americans. They're Asian and Hispanic, you know. But, you know, look, having a few people who aren't Americans in America is not a big deal. But we're at a point where like half of the people aren't Americans. So, of course, America's not going to keep going. Why would it? Half the people that live here aren't Americans. You don't magically... If I go to Japan and I live there 20 years and my accent becomes perfect, which wouldn't happen, but, you know, let's just say... Am I Japanese? I'm not Japanese. Even my kids, even if I have kids with a Japanese woman, my kids won't be Japanese. They'll be half Japanese, but they won't be Japanese. Yeah, they're not American. They might be citizens, but they're not American. The Caucasus Mountains are in the south of Russia. Of course, they are white. Well, look, they are genetically distant though from Western Europeans. You can plot it out on a map. There is differences because I mean, look, they're separated by enough land and for long enough to where there's just genetic differences. I'm not saying they're not white. I'm just saying like, and look, and in terms of America, I'm pretty easygoing with the definition of white because beggars can't be choosers. And even though I know in an ideal world, you could get all granular with it and be like, well, you know, no, actually, you know, these guys are Anglos and these guys are, you know, German and these guys are, you know, these are French people and whatever. No, we're just all white. We're Americans. We're white. And a lot of us are mixed anyway. And there's very few people who are 100%, you know, French or what. I'm not. I'm like a big jumble of white people, you know. There's enough people that, you know, if you, especially like I said, I've done the genealogy and I've taken it back to the Revolutionary War and stuff. And look, you know, sometimes people married a French lady or a German lady or, you know, whatever. And so I've got a little bit of this, a little bit of that mixed in there. That said, I'm genetically very Anglo. My mom took I wish she hadn't, because now like they basically have my DNA because my parents took the test. But my mom took the 23andMe, or one of them, I don't know which one it was, and it said that she was more English than 87% of the population of England, or something like that. I forget the exact number. So my mom is very English, and which makes sense. Like she's, you know, I forget how long her family's been here a long time too, but not quite as long as my dad's family. But my dad's got a lot of Scottish. He's very Scottish. So, should freckled people get their own race category? I don't know. One of my brothers is a ginger, like straight up fucking super redheaded, like super like you know, like the kind with no soul. Like when he was a little kid, it was like clown red and, you know, translucent skin, and now he's a little freckled, but he's still white. I've got red hair in certain parts of my facial hair, if I grow it out, or if my even my, not so much now. When I was a kid, though, in my baby pictures, there's a lot more red in my hair. So we got the ginger genes in my family. Keep up the streams. Well, I'm going to do it as long as I can. I can't promise you guys that this is going to be allowed to take place. I mean, the people they're banning, like some of it, none of it makes sense. You know, they shouldn't. No, I'm not a ginger. I've got a dark complexion. But I do have, I got the genetics for red hairs in my beard and stuff like that. But yeah, we'll see what happens if I get kicked off. We'll see if the purge continues, or, you know, I don't know who is. There's got to be an organization behind it. I don't think it's just that DLive one day decided, let's get rid of all these people. They were obviously pressured from some kind of outside force, which is always the way. And if we had some kind of legal fund, I think it could fund itself, because we would have so many fucking, I think, cases against every time someone got deplatformed, or, you know, like in my case with my book with Amazon and stuff like that. If gays can sue and force a company to bake them a fucking cake, then Amazon should be forced to host my book. And I don't see why, with the right lawyers, you can't make that case and win. But we just don't have the right lawyers. We don't have the ability to fund this stuff. All right, let's take a look here. Would you consider simulcasting one of these live streams over the radio as an experiment? Well, I've thought about... So one of the things you got to think about if you do broadcasting on the radio is if you're going to be constantly broadcasting, like you're going to be, you know, like this stream here, we're just a little north of 2 hours. I'm going to wrap it up here in a second. But if you're like on a ham radio and you start broadcasting, you're not just keeping your finger down on the button, right? You're not just sitting there like constantly broadcasting. So the radio is designed to not be constantly transmitting. It's going to get your, especially if you have older equipment like I do, like my radios are tube radios. So that'd wear the fuck out of my tubes pretty quick. There might be there might be a solution though. There might be a way of doing that. I was looking at, there are radios that are built for that, right? There are radios that are built to transmit constantly. So yeah, I have been thinking about that. Another thing I've been thinking about too is, just because, look, the way things are getting, and I don't want to be an alarmist, but like the way things are getting, there could come a time where Biden hits the fucking internet cutoff switch and shit goes down. We don't know. I don't think that's going to happen right away, but like maybe it could. If that happens, we should have a frequency that we all go to with our ham radios. And in fact, maybe as practice, it might not be a bad idea to set up a net where we once a month or something, like maybe not super frequently because not everyone's got the time, but we just make sure that we can contact everybody. And maybe that's something that maybe we got some ham radio people listening now that can start setting something like that up. And that way we have an established frequency that we go to. And if something goes weird, if there's power outages, if there's internet outages, we can hop on to 3.96 megahertz or whatever, we can have maybe multiple frequencies, like frequency for 80 meters, one for 40 meters, one for 20 meters, for different types of the day and stuff like that. And then we have like a go-to frequency that we all know to go to. And so I think that's something that we should get before we start worrying about doing like entire broadcast of shows, but that is something I'm thinking about. And I hope it doesn't come to something like that. Because if it does, like, what am I going to have? What would I even have to talk about? Because I wouldn't have any, if I don't have internet. I don't know what's going on. So I'd just be like, well, today at the cactus farm, this cactus got extra spikes on it. And, I saw another desert iguana and I shot a squirrel in the forehead. Like, what would I have to talk about? I wouldn't know what's going on. So we would have to have, that's why I think it'd be more valuable to have a couple nets set up to where we get used to communicating that way. And by the way, those of you who don't have ham radios, just if we were to do something like that, there is what's called a web SDR in Utah and a couple other places around the country. But the one in Utah is pretty good. And so you don't have to have a ham radio. You can just go to, in fact, right now you could look up web SDR Utah, and it'll have like a waterfall display of all the signals, and so you can just type in the frequency. So if we had a net, you could type in the frequency and you can listen in and at least listen in until you get a radio together or something like that. So and like I said, that's not going to help you if the internet goes out. You're not going to be able to load that up. But in the meantime, just to maybe dip your toe into it and kind of see what it's all about, everyone listening right now, like you ever see those threads on 4chan that say Sky King, like Sky King, and they tell you to go to like this website and type in 9 or 0.73 whatever it is, upper USB, and which is upper sideband. That's just ham radio. That's one of those things. It's just one that's in somewhere, some Nordic country. I forget where it's at specifically, but for whatever reason, I guess that's the one that picks up Sky King the best. But there's all these. There's one in Half Moon Bay in California. There's one in Utah. There's one in there's several of them on the East Coast, all up and down the East Coast. So if you just, you can do that now. You can go right now, and in fact, there's that. If you look up number stations, like the weird, creepy number stations. There's a website that'll give you a schedule, and now you can't always hear them because sometimes these number stations are just they're not going to reach you or even the web SDR that you're listening to. But they'll give you a schedule, and sometimes you can hear them. I've accidentally, just by coincidence, tuned into number stations while tuning around on the radio, and that's always fun. Just using my antenna is decent. It's okay. It's not the best, but it works. But yeah, that's something that I think would be helpful. Setting up a net, or even setting up some digital comms, like setting up. Someone was talking about there's a Discord clone that you can run on your own hardware. So we could maybe co-locate a server, set something like that up, or someone else can co-locate a server. That way we've got like our own Discord that can't be censored and isn't monitored or anything like that. And that way we can help each other set up the fail-safe of the ham radio if it comes to that. Like we could have little chat rooms that are set up. I've got, speaking of Vince was actually messaging me the other day saying like, hey, can you help me figure out ham radio stuff? And so like this would be a perfect thing, just to have like a chat room where we can help each other do that. A dial-up BBS. Actually, you know what? Why not? Like literally, why not? If in terms of just it's easy to operate those. That obviously you can do that with like a Raspberry Pi. I guarantee you I don't know for sure, but there's probably like even a Raspberry Pi image that's designed to be a BBS. So that might not be a bad idea, as ghetto as that is. It could be a last resort. Now, I don't know how that would work because no one's got dial-up modems anymore. But no, actually, maybe there's a way that you can do it on your phone. I don't know. There's got to be some nerd that's done something that would make that a viable option. And I also have some other ideas as to how we could use mainstream sources without actually... well, that's all I'm going to say. Well, I'll maybe get into that more once I have that idea a little more developed. It's actually in book 2. So anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap things up because I've been going over 2 hours, and I actually have to do some stuff before I go to bed. So we'll see you again tomorrow. I'm going to do this every single night until the 20th. We're going to do the countdown to the end of the Trump era. And in the meantime, make sure you subscribe over at BitChute, subscribe over at YouTube, I guess, as long as that's still up. If you want to help out a little bit, you can go over to subscribestar.com/blackpill. That's probably the preferred method to do it. Or you can send crypto. I've got addresses at blackpill.com/donate, I think it is. Or usually under my videos on BitChute and stuff, I've got links for that. Because as I suspect, this is probably going to be a limited time that we've got left here on this platform, and maybe all platforms. But Subscribestar seems to be, well, again, it's another foreign company, because we can't trust American companies anymore. So, for Blackpilled, I am Devon Stack.
It's yours?
No,
Your mother said she found it in your closet. Who taught you how to do this stuff?
You, all right? I learned it by watching you.
A felon, gangster, mafiotic, negroidic, the black Frank Gelada, a gangster judge, therefore unprosecutable, the blackish, menial, negroidic in appearance and demeanor, felon, vicious, parroting puppet, ex-district attorney, Nassau County, and watch my Frankenstein eyesight television playback of this felonious, lowly, sodomistic display by the felon, sodomist Judge William Sullivan and his lowly felon slut wife during my trial in Nassau County.